The annual Lunch for Libraries fundraiser for the Wisconsin Book Festival was held earlier today at the Overture Center.
The featured author was New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling nonfiction author Daniel Pink. Daniel is the author of 6 books, and his TED Talk on the science of motivation is one of the 10 most watched TED Talks of all time. That's incredible, Dan. With more than 19 million views. Thank you for stopping by.
Welcome to Madison.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to see you. Well, yeah, welcome to Madison. Good to have you back.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the topics of your books. Do you write basically about the same themes?
Yes and no. You know, what I like to do is I like to look at science, make science understandable to lay people, but also make it relevant to lay people. So what can we learn from the science that we can apply in our lives to work smarter and live better?
And the latest book is The Science of Perfect Timing.
Exactly. So in that vein, exactly.
And what is the science of perfect timing?
Well, what we know, here's the thing. We make all kinds of timing decisions in our own life. When should I exercise? When should I do certain kinds of work? When should I start a project? When should I abandon a project that's not working? We make those decisions basically based on gut instinct. And that's the wrong way to make them. There's this rich body of science out there that gives us clues, evidence of how to make when decisions in our life in a better, smarter, shrewder, more satisfying way.
Can you give us some examples?
Oh, so many examples here. So let's talk about what we should do, kinds of work we should do at different times of day. It's pretty clear that most of us should be doing our most important analytic work early in the day. All right. Now, people who are night owls, they should do it later in the day. We should be doing our analytic work early in the day. During that trough period in the afternoon, a lot of bad stuff happens. Our performance drops significantly. We should do our administrative work then. Later in the day, during what I call the recovery, our mood is higher, but we're less vigilant, and that actually makes it a good time for things like brainstorming. And so if we put the right work at the right time, there's evidence that we can perform at a much higher level. There's also stuff like, for instance, if there's one thing I learned from this book, I will never let anybody in my own family go to the hospital or go to an important doctor's appointment in the afternoon.
You're kidding.
No.
Why?
Bad news, guys. Holy moly. If you look at anesthesia errors, 4 times more likely at 3 p.m. than at 9 a.m. Look at colonoscopies. Doctors find half as many polyps in afternoon exams as they do in morning exam. Doctors are far more likely to prescribe unnecessary antibiotics in afternoon sessions than in morning sessions. You look at hand washing in hospitals. Massive deterioration in hand washing in hospitals. Hospitals are much more dangerous places in afternoons than in mornings.
Because of the trough.
Exactly right. And you see it in other domains. Standardized test scores among students. You have students who were randomly assigned to take standardized tests in the morning, some in the afternoon. Afternoon test takers score as if they've missed 2 weeks of school. Just because of, yeah. Here's the thing we need to know. Our performance, our cognitive abilities, our brain power, doesn't stay the same throughout the day. It changes in predictable ways, and it changes in dramatic ways, and simply knowing that allows us to do the right things at the right time.
These books have got to be so much fun to write.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, but to come across that kind of information, yeah, it's exciting.
Oh, no, I'm with you, Mark. It's totally exciting. And this book, more than any book that I've written, really changed the way I do my own work. So I actually reconfigured my own schedule around this so that I do, as someone who's sort of a morning person, I wrote probably 90% of the words in this book before noon, because I was that rigid about my schedule. I mentioned I changed the time that I work out. I now work out in the afternoons because afternoon workouts are better for you. Avoid injury more likely to avoid injury. You perform it slightly better, and most important of all, people find it less effortful in afternoon exercise.
We talk about that all the time. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? We work out in the morning.
Yeah. Well, there's an advantage in working out in the morning too. Morning workouts are better for weight loss. They're better for habit formation, partly because you're less likely to get interrupted. And there's some really interesting evidence. Exercise gives us a pretty enduring mood boost. And so for me, I get a mood boost, but if I exercise at 7 o'clock at night, I sleep away a lot of that mood boost. If you're exercising in the morning, you get that mood boost throughout the day. So it really depends on your goals when you should exercise.
Oh, that's interesting.
Everybody's different.
Yes.
So you're talking to the library's fundraiser. Obviously, you're an author. Libraries and books are so important to you.
Oh, my gosh. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I grew up in Central Ohio. Central Ohio in general, Central Ohio in particular, has a very, very strong library system, one of the strongest in the country. And I spent a lot of time as a kid in libraries. I really did. I would not be a writer today if it weren't for libraries. I can guarantee you that. I learned more going to my local public library and going to the glorious, grand downtown Columbus Public Library in downtown Columbus, which is a grand old building. I learned more on my independent jaunts to the library than I did in school. I truly would not have become a writer were it not for public libraries being accessible to me as a kid. One of the happiest days of my life was the day I realized I had my own Dewey Decimal number. 331.25.
That's
is
great.
number one.
And speaking of libraries, you're going to be at the Central Library here in Madison this evening.
I'll be at the Central Library in Madison at 7 o'clock tonight as part of the Wisconsin Book Festival, talking about some of the ideas in the book, signing books, and just meeting all the great people here in Madison.
I wish we had a lot more time.
So
It was
do
fascinating.
Great to see you, Dan. Thank you so much for stopping by.